Hey there, Alex here. This is the new Vivo X80 Pro. Unlike its predecessors, which are more like premium mid-range devices, it is now a full-fledged flagship device with top-of-the-line hardware and specifications. This also means a higher price tag. So let's take a closer look at the phone and see if it's worth getting. First of all, it's not hard to tell that camera performance is the highlight of this phone just by looking at its design. This design might be a bit subjective, but I think it looks pretty good. It stands out a lot more on other brighter color options, but since we're only getting the cosmic black version here in Singapore, it's pretty subdued. Anyway, Vivo phones have always been really well built, and this is no different. I also like that we're still getting a ton of accessories in the box, including this pretty nice looking case. The X80 Pro now comes with features that were previously only available on their higher-end Pro Plus models, like IP68 rating, wireless charging, as well as stereo speakers. It even has a Cirrus Logic CS43131 DEC. You do have to get your own passive USB-C adapter, but it does sound pretty good to me. On the front of the phone, apart from the curved edges which isn't my favorite, the display looks great. Quad HD Plus resolution, great outdoor visibility, very nice looking colors, and it supports 120Hz refresh rate with the latest LTPO technology, which means that it can drop to a lower refresh rate to improve battery efficiency. This applies to both the 120Hz mode as well as the Smart Switch mode. That said, I noticed that Vivo is very aggressive when it comes to limiting apps in Smart Switch mode. A lot of the apps that I use are limited to just 60Hz in that mode. Anyway, the Vivo X80 Pro has the best under-display fingerprint sensor I've used so far. It's an ultrasonic sensor, which means it doesn't need to light up the display to work, and it's a larger sensor compared to what Samsung is using. So it's not only less fussy about position, which gives it a higher hit rate, but it's also fast to unlock. Even the setup process is just a single tap. The sensor is big enough that you can even choose to use two-finger verification when hiding apps. Moving on to performance, it's using a high-end chipset, so needless to say, it's fast and responsive for everyday tasks and performs well for less demanding games. However, like other Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 devices I've tried, it's a chipset that is quite power-hungry and runs quite hot. While the X80 Pro doesn't really get too hot to touch, that's probably because Vivo is limiting this chipset. Take Genshin Impact for example. At the highest graphics settings, it will start throttling and lowering the FPS fairly quickly into the game. On top of that, there is this frame rate priority feature which will lower the render resolution of the game, so it's not a great experience when it comes to Genshin. Anyway, it's still fine for less demanding games, but just don't expect too much out of this chipset. Oh, and you might be thinking that using a cooler might help, but most of the heat on this phone is around the top part of the phone, which has a large camera bump, so yeah. Anyway, this is a phone that's catered more towards regular consumers or photography enthusiasts, so I think their approach when it comes to thermal management is understandable. Likely thanks to their more aggressive power management, battery life is still somewhat decent despite the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1. It's not amazing, but a day of use is still possible if I don't game too much on the phone. The phone supports fast charging, but the 0 to 100 time of around 40 minutes is just okay for a phone with 80-watt charging. Software experience is mostly similar to the X70 Pro despite being based on the newer Android 12. It's not my favorite, but works well enough for the most part. Performance is decent, some animations look pretty slick, and it even has some useful features built in like the hidden apps feature I mentioned earlier. They also addressed a few minor complaints I've had previously, so I can now turn off Google Discover, the app drawer is now able to go into dark mode, and it seems to be a bit less aggressive at killing apps this time round, which is nice. Moving on to camera performance, this is where the X80 Pro really shines. It has pretty much all the bells and whistles. The main camera performs really well in most lighting conditions, and it's pretty much just point and shoot. And if you find the colors a bit too saturated for your taste, you can just turn on ZEISS natural color mode. The secondary cameras do struggle a bit at night, but it's actually not that bad. Unless it's really dark, I could still get decent looking shots out of the ultra wide and the 2x camera. The 2x camera even comes with gimbal stabilization, which makes using it a little easier in less than ideal lighting. In good lighting, all of them are able to capture nice looking shots. The phone also comes with a lot of video related features and whatnot, but the one that I love the most is actually their Pro mode. I know it's not that useful for regular folks, but for the type of lighting conditions that I usually shoot my reviews in, manual controls are really useful. However, it is a bit strange that the front camera only shoots up to 1080p 30fps. Anyway, camera performance can be a bit subjective, so I won't spend too much time here. Instead, I've uploaded everything I took with the phone at original resolution to an album linked in the video description below, so feel free to check it out if you want to. Overall, I think that Vivo did a pretty good job with the X80 Pro for the most part. The hardware design is good, camera performance is pretty great, and despite the higher price tag, it is finally a proper flagship device with all the bells and whistles. It has IP68 rating, wireless charging, stereo speakers, and whatnot. However, the use of the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1 chipset makes it a harder phone to recommend at this point in time. Even if this level of performance is sufficient for your needs, it's hard to justify paying this much for the phone, considering that we're already starting to see phones with the Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 hit the market. Having used that chipset myself, I think it's a big improvement over the 8 Gen 1 when it comes to thermals and power efficiency, which also means better performance for demanding games like Genshin and better battery life overall. So I think that at this point in time, unless you can get a really good deal for the phone, it's better to just wait for newer phones with Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1. Thanks for watching this video, and see you guys on the next one.